The 1860 Mount Lebanon Civil War was the culmination of a peasant uprising, which began in the north of Mount Lebanon as a rebellion of Maronite peasants against their Druze overlords and culminated in a massacre in Damascus. It soon spread to the south of the country where the rebellion changed its character, with Druze turning against the Maronite Christians. Around 20,000 Christians were killed by the Druzes and 380 Christian villages and 560 churches destroyed. The Druzes and Muslims also suffered heavy losses. Background: on 3 September 1840, Bashir Shihab III, a cousin of the once powerful Emir Bashir Shihab II, was appointed Emir of Mount Lebanon by Ottoman Syria Sultan Abdulmecid I. Geographically, the Mount Lebanon Emirate corresponded with the central part of present-day Lebanon, which historically has had a Christian and Druze majority. In practice, the terms Lebanon and Mount Lebanon tend to be used interchangeably by historians until the formal establishment of the Mandate. Bitter conflicts between Christians and Druzes, which had been simmering under Ibrahim Pasha's rule, resurfaced under the new emir. Hence, the Sultan deposed Bashir III on 13 January 1842, and appointed Umar Pasha as governor of Mount Lebanon. This appointment, however, created more problems than it solved. Representatives of the European powers proposed to the Sultan that Lebanon be partitioned into Christian and Druze sections. On 7 December 1842, the Sultan adopted the proposal and asked the governor of Damascus to divide the region into two districts: a northern district under a Christian deputy governor and a southern district under a Druze deputy governor. This arrangement came to be known as the double Qayyim-Makamate. Both officials were to be responsible to the governor of Sidon, who resided in Beirut. The Beirut-Damascus highway was the dividing line between the two districts. This partition of Lebanon was nurtured by outside powers. Animosities between the religious sects increased. The French, for example, supported the Christians, while the British supported the Druzes, and the Ottomans fomented strife to increase their control on the divided administrative region. These tensions led to conflict between Christians and Druzes as early as May 1845. Consequently, the European powers requested that the Ottoman Sultan establish order in Lebanon, and he attempted to do so by establishing a new council in each of the districts, composed of members of the various religious communities. These councils were intended to assist the deputy governor. Peasant uprising in Kesserwin. This system failed to keep order when the peasants of Kesserwin, overburdened by heavy taxes, rebelled against the feudal practices that prevailed in Lebanon. In 1858, Tanyus Shahan, a Maronite peasant leader, demanded that the feudal class abolish its privileges. The demand refused. The peasants began to prepare for a revolt. In January 1859, an armed uprising headed by Shahan flared up. The uprising targeted the Kazan sheikhs of Mount Lebanon, pillaging their land and burning their homes. Having driven the Maronite feudal lords out of Kesserwin and seizing their land and property, the insurgent peasants set up their own rule. The Kesserwin uprising, as it became known, had a revolutionary effect on other regions in Lebanon. The disturbances spread to Latakia and to central Lebanon. Maronite peasants, actively supported by their clergy, began to prepare for an armed uprising against their Druze masters. In turn, the Druze lords began to arm the Druze irregulars. Lead up to war in the months of March, April and May 1860, numerous acts of murder, looting and skirmishing took place across the mixed Christian-Druze districts of southern Mount Lebanon. According to historian Layla Terazi Fawaz, these initial acts were random and unpredictable enough to seem more the acts of lawless men than a calculated war against other sects, especially since banditry was always part of the objective. In March, the father of a Catholic monastery in Amik was killed and the monastery looted, and shortly after, a Druze man from Ainab allegedly killed a Christian man from Abadia. These acts fueled a cycle of revenge attacks that significantly increased in frequency by April. In April, 2 Druze men were killed in the vicinity of Beirut, followed by the killing of 3 Christians outside of Sidon. 2 Christians from Jazin were killed at Karniklim al-Shumar by Druze from Hasbaya on 26 April, and the next day another 4 Christians were killed in Kachilai. On the 11th of May, Christians from Kachilai killed 2 Druzes at the Nahr al-Asal River, and 3 days later 2 Druzes from Chauf were killed near Sidon. The tit-for-tat killings continued, rendering most of the roads of Mount Lebanon unsafe for travelers. Towards the end of May, Christians were reporting to the European consuls that killings of their co-religionists were occurring in the districts of Beqa, Arqub and Gab. The Maronite clergy communicated to each other their increasing concerns regarding the violence and the need to end it. But some clergymen believed the cycle of retaliatory attacks would not stop.